Today we're going to jump into this really fascinating study out of Chile. It asks a pretty huge question. In a world that's always changing, how do rural communities, people whose entire lives are wrapped up in the land around them, how do they actually survive? We're going to see that the answer has everything to do with their culture, their work, and who they are.
This one quote from the study really gets right to the heart of the matter. For a fishing community in Caldera, Chile, fishing isn't just a 9-to-5. It's not just a job. It's a legacy. It's knowledge and skill passed down from parent to child, and it's a huge source of pride. The study actually has a name for this deep connection. They call it an eco-squared cultural practice.
So what on earth does that term actually mean? Well, to put it simply, it's where culture and the environment are basically the same thing. It's when a community's whole way of being, their traditions, their relationships, their very identity, can't be separated from the specific land they live on and all the life within it. You can almost think of it as a living, breathing relationship between people and their place.
Okay, but what happens when that deep relationship is put under serious pressure? Well, this study found that the bond between these people and their environment is being tested. They're seeing some pretty significant shifts, both on land and out in the water.
And this slide just shows it so clearly. In a place called Villa Prat, the landscape itself is literally being rewritten. What used to be traditional vineyards, a huge part of their way of life for ages, are now being replaced by these massive cherry monocultures. Now, this isn't just about swapping one crop for another. This is a fundamental shift in the whole economy, in the local biodiversity, and really in the entire rhythm of daily life.
And this is not just an isolated case. Nope, the study found these signs of stress in a bunch of different communities. So over in Caldera, new fishing restrictions strongly suggest there were just fewer fish to be found. In San Pedro, beekeepers talked about a sudden, totally devastating loss of their bees after some extreme weather. And then in Palmilla, the social fabric itself is changing, with more and more women having to take on agricultural work. It's a really complex picture of a whole system facing challenges from all sides.
Which of course brings us to the most important question of all. When the very ground is shifting under your feet, when your entire way of life is threatened, what do? Do you just give up? Or do you find a way to adapt?
And the answer that the researchers found was, overwhelmingly, that they adapt. These communities are not passive victims. Not at all. They are actively and often brilliantly using their deep local knowledge and their skills to figure out how to navigate this new reality. This is where we get to see what resilience really looks like.
So the study kind of broke it down into 4 key strategies. First, they diversify their production. That shift from vineyards to cherries, that's an economic adaptation. Second, they combine their incomes. You might see a beekeeper who also has a formal job just to make it all work. Third, and this one is so critical, they make a point to pass down their knowledge. They make sure the next generation knows how to fish, how to keep bees. And finally, they organize. They work together, collaborating on things like repairing fishing equipment or sharing resources.
But adaptation isn't just about the money. In this example, this is just fantastic. It shows a much deeper kind of resilience. So even as the vineyards in Villa Prat are shrinking to make room for cherries, the community is holding on tight to the tradition of making chicha, which is a fermented drink. Look, this isn't just about making a beverage. It's about preserving a cultural practice that defines exactly who they are. It's a really powerful act of cultural survival.
And all of this builds to what is, you could argue, the single most important finding in the entire study. It turns out that when you're facing all this uncertainty, the most powerful tool for resilience isn't a new crop or a different job. It's having a strong sense of who you are. It's identity.
This table just makes that connection crystal clear. For each of these communities, there's a specific practice that's like the bedrock of their identity. So in the Villa Prat area, it's making chicha. In Potrero Grande, it's beekeeping. And down in Caldera, it's artisanal fishing. You see? These aren't just things they do, they are who they are. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? When the people of Potrero Grande talk about beekeeping, they're not just talking about honey or income. They call it a way of life. That simple phrase captures it all. The mix of work, culture, and personal identity. This is the anchor that holds them steady when the world is changing all around them.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second. What are the big picture lessons from all this? The researchers actually did a great job of evaluating their own work, which gives us a really clear sense of where the evidence was the strongest.
This chart breaks it down perfectly. What they found was that the clearest, most powerful evidence, half of their strongest findings, was all about community resilience and the role of identity.
And while, yeah, they found evidence for biodiversity and economic impacts, it was the human response, the strategies for coping, and the sheer power of identity that really shone through in the research.
So, here it is. The clearest takeaway is that adaptation and identity are basically two sides of the same coin. Real, lasting resilience isn't just about changing what you do to make a living. It's about finding ways to adapt that also let you hold on to the very core of who you are as a community. It's about navigating the future without losing your past.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought. As every single one of our communities faces a rapidly changing world, this study from rural Chile might be telling us something really profound. Maybe the greatest resource we have for building a resilient future isn't just new tech or better policies, but a deep, meaningful connection to our own heritage. Is it possible that our past is actually the key to unlocking our future? It's something for all of us to think about.